We are in ninth grade lit, and we're reviewing what we've read about the Nun's Priest's Tale. I just handed out a review sheet for Peace Child, which is due Monday, and it's online or will be posted, and we're going to work on that at home. But we're looking at the Nun's Priest's Tale, and before Freddie finishes what he's saying, just want to remind everybody that this is a mock epic, so he's making fun of epic stories, and it's an animal fable. And we'll get into that again later, but we're looking at Pertolote's defense of dreams. And so she believes dreams are important, and we'll find out that Chanticleer does not.
No.
And so,
Sorry, it's the other way around.
yeah, what did I just say? Say it right.
You said, okay, Perlote doesn't believe in dreams, Chanticleer does.
You're right, it's the other way. Thank you. So Chanticleer does not believe in dreams, but Pertolote does. And her argument was, you remember, basically there's one argument. She did read Cato, but we don't really know it. Cato said that dreams are important. That's all she does. Remember her basic argument about dreams? It's what you eat. And if you eat the wrong thing and have some indigestion, you'll have bad dreams. I dreamed last night, not that you're interested. It was a weird dream. I was at the beach, and this huge cliff was, at the end of the beach. And I was trying to climb the cliff. And in my dream, I got almost to the top, and I wasn't sure, I could make it over. And, I'm looking down, it's sheer, it's a sheer cliff, like it's a sand dune, like the largest sand dune ever. And I don't know why I dreamed that, and do I put much stock into it? I can kind of imagine where it came from, a couple bits and pieces of things that I saw or things that I was thinking about, but I'm not putting any, I don't believe that was just my day. It was kind of like, I love dreams because they're symbolic. If you're a lit teacher and a reader of literature, we love symbols. And maybe those things were symbols of something, but I don't think I was being taught anything. So, but he comes back with the argument that Freddie is going to set us up with, that dreams are extremely important. And what is his argument? He tells this story. And how does the story begin?
Oh, of the two pilgrims?
Yes.
It was just like they were on a pilgrimage or whatever, and they slept in it was time for them to rest and sleep, so they slept in different places. And then one of them had a dream of being killed, and then that's basically what happened. And then it happened, and it actually happened.
I'm trying to find out where we are, but yes. And so what was the lesson? The man didn't listen to his dream. His friend was killed because he remembered the dream, and he knew where to find him, and they found him dead. And so what was the purpose of that story?
Giving an example that dreams actually are important.
Yeah, he doesn't tell us the source, and to me that's not very compelling. I guess that could happen, but so I'm trying to find out where we are. This doesn't fit, but we're on page 221. Are we at the top by this? That dreams should be dreaded. That's where we are. That's not what I wrote down here, but I don't even see it. So, Abby, why don't you start for page 221? And this is still Chanticleer, and he's still trying to make arguments for the fact that dreams are important. You better pay attention to it.
Wait, what page? 221?
221. By this we see that dreams are to be dreaded.
By this we see that dreams are to be dreaded, and in the self-same book I am found embedded, right in the very chapter after this, not inventing as I hoped the bliss, the story of two men who started out to cross the sea for merchandise, no doubt. But as the wind for a contrary they waited. It was a pleasant town I should have stayed. Merrily greeted about the sea inside. A few days later, with the evening tide, the wind veered round the sun, as to suit their best. They were delighted, and they went to rest, meaning to sail north next morning early.
so the situation is two are going on a trip and they're spending the night there, and of course, one's gonna have a dream, Freddie, you know.
This man, as he was sleeping, it would seem, just before dawn, had an outstanding dream. He thought a man was standing by his bed, commanding him to wait, and thus he said, "If you set sail tomorrow as you intend, you will be drowned. My tale has had an end." He woke and told his friend what had occurred, and begged him that the journey be deferred, at least a day, and implored him not to start. But his companion, lying there apart, began to laugh and treat him to derision. I'm not afraid," he said, "of any vision, to let it interfere with my affairs. A straw for all your dreamings and you scares. Dreams are just empty nonsense, merest
Shapes.
shapes. Why, people dream all day of vows and mates, all sort of traps that can be understood, things that never happened and never could. But as you see, you mean to stay behind and miss the time for willful sloth of mine. God knows I'm sorry for it, but goodbye." And so he took his leave and went away.
All right, so why don't we go to Matthew?
And yet, before they covered half the trip, I don't know what went wrong. There was a rift. And by some accident, the ship went down. Her bottom ran off and supported to drown. In sight of all vessels at her side, that had put on out upon herself named tide. So, my dear
Pertolo.
if you discern the force of these examples, may you learn. One never should be careful about dreams, for undeniably, I say it seems that many are a sign of trouble breeding.
Okay, so this dream, what was this dream before this story about? Let's see, you told us the first one. Anybody else tell us? Hayden, you got it?
Yeah, so there were two men and they went to sleep and one had a dream that he was on a ship. That he was, one of them, they were gonna drown, and that he tried to tell his friend, but his friend wouldn't listen to him, and then they ended up drowning anyway, the ship sank.
So, the one who, didn't have the dream and was warned, went on the ship, he drowned. So again, what is the lesson of the story, Freddie?
The dreams like have a meaning and it should be like, and you should pay attention to them.
I think stories like this do scare you. You know, if you heard stories about flying in an airplane, and you know, you might develop I don't ever want to fly, even though these stories may not be true, and certainly they don't prove anything's wrong with it. This doesn't prove that dreams are important, but it makes you think about it. So why don't we go to Abby? Come back this way. You got a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, when he, so when the other one who didn't dream gone, that's when he drowned? Is that right?
The one who dreamed it didn't go on the trip. They're both going on the trip. So the one who didn't dream it, he didn't believe the dream, he went and he died. It proves, in his opinion, his idea, it proves that you should pay attention to dreams. Abby. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. Okay, would you mind starting over? I was in the wrong page too, so. Again, just another kind of anecdotes about dreams. St. Kenelm, 7-year-old boy, dreamed that he would be murdered. Who would murder a 7-year-old boy? But that's what happened, and he was. So, and then things again come true that you dream. That's his argument. Fiona. And then there's the Old Testament.
And then there's the Old Testament, a manual for your study, see the book of Daniel. Did Daniel think the dream was fantasy? Read about Joseph too, and you'll see. And that many dreams, I do say that all, give cognizance of what is to befall. Look at Lord Pharaoh, king of Egypt, look at what befell his brother and his cook. Did not the visions have a certain force, but as we study history, of course. Meet many dreams that said in one dream, but about Croesus too, the Lydian king. He dreamt that he was sitting in a tree, meaning he would be hanged. It had to be. For take
Or Andromache.
Andromache, great Hector's wife, the day on which he was to lose his life. She dreamt about it the night before, and realized that if Hector went to war, he would be lost that very day in battle. She warned him, he dismissed it all as private, and sallied forth to fight, being self-willed, and there he met Achilles and was killed. The tale is long and somewhat overdrawn, and anyway it's very nearly done. Let me say in my very brief conclusion, my dream undoubtedly foretells confusion. It bodes me ill, I say, and furthermore, upon your laxatives I set no store, for they are venomous, except for fathom, often enough before, and I defy them.
I just want to read it because I think I misinterpreted it. For my dream undoubtedly foretells confusion, it bodes me ill. I say, furthermore, upon your laxatives set no store, for they are venomous. I've suffered by them often enough for, and I defy them. So, at the end of his argument, he says that my dream, I believe my dream about the fox. I believe something's going to happen, and I'm concerned about it. But I'm not going to take your medicine. I'm not going to take all those laxatives and things you had. So think about it. He talks about two stories. He talks about some saints and classical literature, like Andromache, Hector's wife, Croesus, and also Daniel and Joseph. So this is the variety of evidence he thinks he has that show that dreams are important. We talked about this. You remember the dreams that what Daniel, he didn't dream, but did he dream? He interpreted people's dreams. And of course, Joseph did dream, but he also interpreted people's dreams. You know those stories. Are any of you convinced now, given Chanticleer's argument, that dreams you should listen to?
No.
Have you ever been warned in a dream? I've never been warned. Do you think if you were, you'd believe it? Like you dream about the trip tomorrow you're going to go on, something happens in your dream about the trip you're going to go on, and then that's never happened to me. But that's what always happens here. All these dreams, he believes, are telling the future. Yeah.
Wait, so what's number 8?
Read it.
What two Bible stories is besides the previous one?
So who are the two people? Yes.
Joseph and Daniel.
Joseph and Daniel, both who were good at interpreting dreams. And those dreams were sent in order to warn people of the future. I guess God could do that, but what's the primary method of God speaking to people today? Yeah.
Dreams.
Today?
Oh, today.
Yeah, today. It was very common in the Bible. I mean, well, I shouldn't say common. It was not unique. It really wasn't that common, but yeah. One more time. Yeah, I mean, it is primarily the Bible. Once the Bible was set, now some people believe differently about it. I do not. That God still speaks, gives truth to people. I believe that the Word of God contains that truth, and He's not going to say anything that contradicts or adds to that. But he used to use dreams, so that was quite common. So here's our guy, Chanticleer. Got a question?
Can we do 9?
I don't know. Read it.
How does Chanticleer ignore his
Well, we gotta read it, so let's read it, and we'll go to, Zoe. And now let's talk of fun.
And now let's talk of finding stuff on this. And Madam, as I hope for heaven's bliss, of one thing God has sent me from his grace. For when I see the beauty of your face, the scarlet loveliness about your eyes, all thought of terror and confusion dies, for it's as certain as the creed I know. A Latin tag, dear Madam, meaning this: woman whom demands the light and all this bliss. For when at night I feel your feathery side, although perforce I cannot take a ride, because alas, of verses made too narrow, the light and solace fill me to the marrow, and I defy all visions and all dreams.
And now we can answer the question. Where do you see a statement that shows that he's going to ignore his own advice, his own argument that dreams are important and they can predict the future? Where do you see him contradict that? I wouldn't ask you if it wasn't the last thing that Zoe read.
And I defy all visions and all dreams.
That's absurd. He just spent 2 pages arguing that dreams are important, and then he must believe it, and then he says, but I'm going to defy all dreams and visions. I'm going to ignore my own advice. You'd be a really foolish person, and that's part of the mock heroicism here, because that's foolish and absurd, not heroic. So we will go to Hayden, and when he's ready, because he's writing stuff down, which I think is good.
And with the word he flew down from the beams, for it was day, and down his hands flew off, and with a chuck he gave the trophy call. For he had found a suit upon the floor, where all he was with praise no more. He feathered her to load, and wantons plant, and trod her 20 times, ere times one day. Grim as a lion's was his manly crown, as on his toes he sauntered up and down. He scarcely designed.
Deigned, it means condescend or stoop down to help.
Deigned to set his foot to ground. And every time a seat of corn was found, he gave a chuck and up his wiser hall. This royal as a prince who strides his hall. We this chanticleer engage on feeding and pass to the lecture that was reading.
So how is, maybe woke up really worried about the dream, and he made this argument that dreams are important, you should pay attention to them. How is he acting now? Did you notice how he's acting? What's his attitude now?
He's like happy.
Yes, and it says, thus royal as a prince who strides his hall, leave we this chanticleer engaged on feeding and passing through the venture that was breeding. So he's forgot all about the dream, and he's acting like nothing's wrong. Have you noticed in life that sometimes in the middle of when you might be thinking everything is just great, you know, I've got no problems, what a wonderful, have you ever had the experience that kind of at that moment something often happens when you let your guard down? Have you ever had that experience or know anybody? Because that's what happens to him. He gets up to the point where, okay, I got it made, this is great, life is wonderful, and it's that very moment where the difficulty comes back in. So let's see what happens. Are we going to Bronwyn?
Now when the month in which the world began, March, the first month when God created man, was over, and the 32nd day thereafter ended on the 3rd of May. It happened that Chanticleer and all his bride, his 7 wives, attendant at his side, cast his eyes upward to the blazing sun, which in the sign of Taurus then had run, his 21 degrees and somewhat more, and knew by nature and no other lore that it was nightfall. With blissful voice he crew triumphantly and said, Rejoice, behold the sun. The sun is up, my 7. Look, it has climbed 40 degrees in heaven, 40 degrees and 1 in fact. By this, dear Madam
Perla.
Perla, my earthly bliss, hark to those blissful birds and how they sing. Look at those pretty
Okay, before you go on, notice those last two words. Things are so great, he laughs. And I circled them in my book. But notice the first word. You can keep reading, but notice the first word in the next stanza is what? So that's a contrast. It shows a contrast between how he feels, but something else is coming. See what it is.
But in that moment, fate let fly her shaft, ever the later end of joy did blow. God knows that worldly joy is swift to go, a rhetorician with a flair for style could chronicle this maxim in his file of notable remarks with safe conviction. Then let the wise give ear, this is no fiction. My story is as true, I undertake, as that of good Sir Lancelot de Lake, who held all women in such high esteem. Let me return full circle to my theme.
So what's got to come next? What problem is going to come next? Look at the next line.
The fox.
So the fox that he dreamed about actually does come back. So he was right. He just didn't listen to his own advice. Tim.
A coal-tipped fox of sly iniquity that had been lurking round the grove for 3 long years, that very night burst through and past stockade and hedge, as Providence forecast, into the yard where Chanticleer and the fair was wont with all his ladies to repair. Still, in a bed of cabbages he lay, until about the middle of the day, watching the cock and waiting for his cue, as all these homicides so gladly do, that lie about and wait to murder men. O false assassin lurking in thy den, O new Iscariot, new Ganelon, O Greek Sinon, thou whose treachery won Troy town and brought it utterly to sorrow. O Chanticleer, accursed be that morrow that brought thee to the yard from thy high beams. Thou hadst been warned, and truly by thy dreams, that this would be a perilous day for thee.
So here comes the fox, and he is being compared to 3 people. Do you know who those people are?
Yes.
Iscariot, Ganelon, and Sinon. Give me one of them.
Ganon, isn't that the guy from, Song of Roland?
So what does he have in common with the other 2?
A traitor.
He is a traitor, yes.
Sinon, wasn't he the fellow the Greeks left behind when they left the horse? They left the horse, and then Sinon, who was to tell the story, follows.
So Ganelon betrayed Roland, Sinon betrayed, the Trojans, really.
Yeah, no, I think Sinon was a Trojan himself. He
Was
like
he the
exiled.
priest?
What?
Was he the priest? Was he the Greek that was left behind? Well,
I
can
thought I
read it.
remember reading that.
Dave's thinking of the little kid that they left on the outside of the horse to say, hey, they left me behind.
Yeah, the Greek, Sinon is the Greek who tricked King Priam into admitting the Trojan horse. So he is you were right, it is the Greek guy. But he pretended to be sympathetic to the Trojans, but he's not. Of course, he was Iscariot.
Judas Iscariot.
All right, so 3 traitors. Did you know that we will meet Ganelon in hell? Dante's hell. His name is mentioned in hell. Iscariot is in hell. I don't know about Sinon, but we'll mention these people when we read about hell. So we'll go to Matthew. Yeah.
Can we answer what is predestined?
Not yet. We got to read the next one.
Me or me?
You.
We're at but that which God.
That is correct.
But that which God's foreknowledge can foresee, man needs occur, as certain men of learning have said. Ask any scholar of discerning to say that schools are filled with altercation on this vexed matter of predestination, long banded by 100,000 men. How can I sift it to the bottom that the holy doctor St. Augustine shines? In this there is Bishop Bradmore ordains authority, both these two, decreeing whether the fact of God divine foreseeing constrains me to perform a certain act, and by constraint I mean the simple fact of mere compulsion by necessity, or whether a free choice is granted me to do a given act or not to do it, though ere it was accomplished. God foreknew it, or whether providence is not so stringent and merely makes necessity contingent.
All right, so we got to answer this question, and we'll finish with this, but it's really important. Do you know what predestination is?
Yes.
What?
Isn't that where like you're like where you die, where you go after is like chosen before you die? I have no idea.
No, you do have some idea, because that's pretty much accurate, yes.
Predestination, the concept that since God knows and has foreseen all, that, God's plan is a track from which man cannot deviate, and that all choices are essentially, have a set outcome.
I like that. I like that. Guys, you're talking too much. You're missing stuff. I like that definition. It essentially covers all things. That God is sovereign over everything. So there's nothing that doesn't happen that he didn't see in advance. But predestination tells us more than that. That God didn't ordain it to happen. Not just saw that it happened. But, and what he raises the question, if you just believe in foreknowledge, in other words, God knows when you leave this room what you're going to do. And of course I know that too, and you know you're going to turn left. But are you forced to turn left? In other words, because God knows you're going to turn left, then how could you not turn left? God knows exactly what you're going to do. You could walk out the door and say, I'm going to trick him. He thinks I'm going to turn left, I'm really going to turn right, and then I'll turn back left. Like I'm a wide receiver trying to, fake out the defensive back. God knows all that. He knows exactly what you're going to do. Can I add one thing to this? And you said it. Theologically, it usually refers to the idea, another word in the Bible uses, these are great Bible, they're in the Bible. Now, different people define them differently. But another word related is the word election. And election means choice. And it is the Bible depends on what basis is the choice, but that God basically chooses who are saved and who are not. Now, I don't know what you think about it, if you've ever heard that. Some people interpret that meaning God chooses on the basis of your action. He looks ahead and you think you're going to, he knows that in 1970 I was gonna, in my dorm room, more like September, I was gonna accept Christ as my Savior. He knew that. And it is upon that basis that he saved me. There's another view, and the other view is that I accepted Christ because God predestined that I accept Christ. Romans 8:28 says, he who God has foreseen, he is also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son. So it used to be one of the great discussions that students would have at Caldwell, and I don't know where you get it now. We used to have a theology class. I think Dr. Talbot would be the guy to teach it. But there'll always be this great discussion about predestination. What does your church teach about it? What is your understanding of it? But people, I don't know that maybe he's teaching it now, but we went through a period where nobody was being taught what it is, or the question was being raised. So we'll finish with that idea of predestination. And remember, tomorrow is not Thursday. What's due tomorrow? Anything? Nothing due tomorrow, but Thursday, remember, the prologue. So
Wait, are you studying the whole thing Thursday in front of the class?
wait, yes, you are.
35 minutes.
I get one.
What?
8-minute quarters.
From there, so they see.